Well, good afternoon. My name's Eric Menzer. I'm here today as the chairman of the board of Community First Fund, and thank you all for joining us. First order of business today is to acknowledge those elected officials who are with us today, which include York City Mayor Kim Bracey and York City Council President Carol Hill Evans, as well as City Council Member Henry Nixon, Nadine Hubner from Senator Mike Wall's office, a couple of our county commissioners, Doug Hoke and Steve Chronister. Thank you very much for being with us today. It includes some candidates for political office. We'll try to avoid any fisticuffs there. They're all good people, and actually the fact that they're here today speaks to the kind of engagement and the caliber of people that we're very fortunate to have running for office in the 95th District. And last but not least, Marilyn Hedge, a fellow board member of mine at Community First Fund. And we're here today to make the formal announcement that Community First Fund has been awarded $15 million in new market tax credits from the U.S. Treasury CDFI Fund. And that pretty much ends my part of the prayer. Now, actually, I am going to turn it over to Dan in a minute, and one of the hallmarks of a well-run nonprofit is they give the board chair a script. And of course, one of my hallmarks is I depart from the script, which I do just want to say I think so highly of Dan and Joan and all of the other folks involved with Community First Fund. I had the privilege of getting to know Dan. It's probably been 15 years ago at this point when they first came into the city of York, into York County, and eventually opened an office here. And one of the reasons I think that CFF has been so successful is that even though they're headquartered on the other side of that river, they have done a great job of building local relationships in the communities that Community First Fund serves in, I think, 17 counties, if I have that right, all over central Pennsylvania. So even though CFF is a regional organization and enjoys the economies of scale that come with being a regional organization, they've done a great job acting locally in all of our communities, and the ability to turn out all of you. First of all, the very fact that they thought to have an announcement in all of the cities that CFF serves, not just at our headquarters, as well as the fact that on short notice, all of you came out for this short event is a real testament to the relationships that Dan and others on the CFF staff has built, because that's why this organization works. So with that, to talk about the details of new market tax credits and how they will benefit us here in York County, Dan Bettencourt.
Thanks, Eric. I too stay off script, but I just want to tell you, Eric Menzer, this is the second time he's a chair for us. When I met Eric back in 2000, and we were talking about opening up an office. In fact, I met with Kim Bracey as well. I almost said the wrong name, but that's how far back we go. But seriously, Eric, you have been a strong supporter of the organization, and in fact, he was off the board for a couple years. And when you get a good board chair, you try to bring him back, and he just said, "I can't say no to you." But I really think that the reason why Community First Fund is so strong, we have great leadership like Eric and Marilyn Hedge and others. But speaking of that, I also want to acknowledge Joan Broadhead, who really was instrumental in putting the application together for new markets tax credit. So Joan, I want to thank you for that as well. You know, I just want you to know that I was quoted this morning. I do think this is a game changer for our communities, and in York in particular. I don't know if you're aware how hard it is to get these tax credits. Let me try to put that in perspective for you. Only about 12 banks in the United States were approved for federal tax credits, and only about 20 community loan funds like ours were approved, and about 300 organizations applied. And by the way, this is the 10th year of the program, and if you didn't have experience going in, you probably were not going to be approved. And so we're only one of 5 organizations in the entire country to get approved for the first time. In other words, if you didn't have the experience, you probably weren't going to get approved. Why were we approved? Because we had a very clear strategy, and that is to focus on our central cities. That's Harrisburg, that's York, that's Reading, and of course Lancaster. These are the central cities, and when you talk about regional planning, I know the chambers get together, the EDCs get together, and we talk about planning and regional planning, but we're proving that each town and each community owns Community First Fund, and that's why I think you're here today. So thank you for your support over the year, and I totally agree with you, Eric. So getting back to the tax credits, we were approved for $15 million. And what these tax credits will do, they'll actually provide the subsidy or the equity that projects in the $5 to $10 million range really need. We all know that projects, large projects like the ballpark and others will get the attention of governors and others and get the subsidy that they need. But it's these smaller projects that need a 30 or 40% equity or down payment or subsidy that we'll get through this tax credit. So for example, on a $10 million project, this is equivalent to about $3 million in subsidy. And so what banks will do, they'll provide a loan portion, but then investors will come in and provide and get a federal tax credit on this. So I think that this is going to make a big difference in our community. And it's going to provide needed community services. It's going to provide supermarkets for neighborhoods, charter schools that want to expand, and of course, health centers such as federally qualified health centers. And then there's also commercial redevelopment. We all know that there's a lot of focus in town about turning blocks around and turning communities around. And so this is going to be a tool for all of us to look at doing that. And I know there's been a group meeting on that very subject. The towns that have about 20% poverty, in other words, you have to have at least 20% poverty in your community to qualify for these tax credits. So in York County, we're only talking about York City qualifying for these tax credits. A couple projects that we're thinking here are projects like in Royaltown, other projects along here on George Street, among others. So, of course, the 15 million sounds like a lot, and it's a great start, but we're talking about 3 projects throughout central Pennsylvania for about $5 million. So, we are getting calls already from Josh and other developers that are saying, we want this money here in York, and we're committed to having one of our projects here in York. The way we're going to decide on how this is going to work, and we're going to need your help, and I know I talked to Kevin Schreiber and the mayor staff, among others, is every community is going to have to rank its projects. And they have to have 2 things. One is, it obviously has to be economically viable, and the banks will make sure that because they're going to do the debt portion. But then it has to have a high impact. And so communities, in a sense, will decide what's the highest impact, most viable project for that community. And we'll be working on that together. So, in other words, there's going to be a lot more demand than what we have in tax credits, and we'll all have to work to figure that out together. And we're prepared to do that. So again, I want to thank you for being here today. Very heartfelt. I know many of you, most of you, and I know that you came out here just with very short notice to celebrate this very important moment with us. So again, thank you for the mayor and Jonelle, who's our staff member here over the years, and of course our board members and Joan. So again, thank you, and we're going to hear from a couple other folks. Thank you.
Dan's here. Dan says I'm supposed to introduce her. Please welcome Mayor Kim Bracey.
Okay, I could have did that, Eric. I thought you had something else to say. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you in downtown York. Congratulations, Community First Fund. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are extremely excited, as excited as you are about your news. We look forward to working closely with you in York, making sure we get the best project before you for selection. It is my goal and hope that we see everything that you mentioned, including job creation. We need to get people back to work. And when we first met way back when, another name and everything else, that was part of our strategy. We met through Weed and Seed and making sure our economic development opportunities were heightened and strengthened in the South George Street area. And Dan and I, Community First Fund, and others, lots of people have come and gone. Continue that. They were committed to being in the city of York with an office, an operation. He has stood by that, and that has happened, and it continues to grow. We now have a relationship in the city of York with Community First Fund that is strong and one that will continue. Which brings me to, we are very happy to be partners with you with this, with your honor today that you're getting today. So thank you for bringing those credits here. Thank you for your hard work, Joan, making it happen. And let's go CFF, let's go job creation, let's go new development, yeah.
So now we can go.
Yeah, Eric again.
That's not every day you get thrown under the bus by your mayor. All in fun. all-in fund, because it is a happy occasion. I think, is that it?
I just want
Okay.
to say one thing. So I definitely want to acknowledge one more staff member. Jeff Druce is in the back. Jeff's our chief of finance person, and he put the projections together for these tax credits. So Jeff, thank you for your hard work on that as well. And I definitely want to have Eric give some closing comments, but are there any questions about the tax credit or anything about you heard today?
Can I just mention this is like
Yes.
the largest in central Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Yeah, ever.
This, and that's a very, very important point. We talked about how difficult it was to get. One of the reasons why we wanted to get these tax credits by an organization in Central Penn, and it happened to be Community First Fund, is that we've always had to, there's so few of these, and we've had to rely on national community loan funds to bring them in. And by the way, I don't believe there's ever been a tax new market program project here in New York. In Lancaster, there's only been 2 in a 10-year period. And so the fact that we are now in control of our destiny, the fact that we have an organization that can actually control these tax credits is very important to our communities. We can make these decisions here among ourselves. So again, I think that's a very important point. Thank you, Kim. So again, thank you for coming today, and please, Eric, give us our closing comments.
One of the from a Community First Fund perspective, obviously these new market tax credits are only one part of our portfolio, and I remember back to probably 5 years ago at this point, and then it was reaffirmed just about a year ago when the board with Dan and the staff went through the strategic planning process at Community First Fund. We talked about 2 things. We talked about our business model, because keep in mind, we are an organization that is constantly working to sustain ourselves. We have no single ongoing source of support. We get allocations of funding for lending or things like these tax credits from various government sources, but we get no operating subsidy per se on a regular basis from anyone. So we need to have a fee model, an economic model as an organization that allows us to have a sustainable business. So one of the things we talk about a lot is our business model that goes hand in hand with the mission. And the mission to serve underserved communities, both with lending and now equity sources. And those are primarily folks in poverty-impacted areas, women and people of color, small business people who create most of the jobs in the United States. So it's really been a thrill to watch Community First Fund grow literally from a church basement to what it is today, into this highly sophisticated and sustainable organization with a business model and a mission that is built around a lending and investment to women and people of color in low-income communities throughout central Pennsylvania, urban and rural. And trust me, through this work, we know there are plenty of low-income rural communities throughout central Pennsylvania as well. And they have, in some cases, more of a need because they don't get as much attention and have the specialized staff like a city economic development department. So it's been a thrill watching CFF evolve in this way into a sustainable organization. Having said that, I will close by saying we need your continued support. If we're going to continue to grow this organization, we need the equity investments into the organization so we can make those loans back out and continue to build our business model to be a sustainable community development finance organization for central Pennsylvania. So today's a great day. They say in baseball, I'll close with a baseball analogy. They say in baseball that momentum is only as good as your next starting pitcher. So I will say to Dan that momentum is only as good as your next big investment. That seems an appropriate note to close on. Thank you all very much.